Hey everybody, welcome back to the Turnout. I am your host Aloy. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell notifications so you always know when the Turnout puts out a new video. I will be releasing a bunch of new videos hopefully this week coming up. So that will be very exciting for me. I have some really fun topics. But today we're going to be talking about I should probably turn my computer down. Today we're going to be talking about episode 3 of season 4 of Charmed, which came on Friday. I only just watched it this morning. I had a very busy weekend, which was why I was not here to do my normal review yesterday, like I normally am on a Saturday. But time flies when you're having fun. Lots of fun was had. One other thing I just want to say real quick. Uh, a while ago, I made a top 10 vampires, um, list on the channel, and I had a lot of fun making it. And it's, various people have come on to tell me that my choices were absolutely wrong, and that's how that works sometimes. But guess what? I had said in that list that my number one vampire from Buffy was Drusilla, and Juliet Landau actually commented on that video and actually shared it on her socials. So I thought that was actually a really, really cool thing. So just uh, just mentioning that, I thought that that was really nice and really cool of her to share that. I'm a small channel, but we got a bunch of hits over the last few days because she shared the video, and so it was very nice. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump into this whole Charmed episode. So right off the bat, again, the writing is very strong. I like a lot of what's going on in this episode. Excuse me. And yeah, there's a lot of really cool stuff happening in this episode. I like that they're taking the characters in different directions and also kind of bringing some of them back, which is nice to see. This is a good third episode. I don't think anything, mind blowing happened in this episode, but it was definitely a good watch, and I think it's building up nicely to the next episode. So, as always, I'm going to go through some of my notes, and then I'm going to then, hit some of the comments and stuff like that. If you want me to definitely see your comment, you can hit the super chat, and that will happen in that way. So we start with Kayla trying to have a family dinner, which I thought was cute. Friends and family. This younger generation just making up words. But she made a recipe that was from Ruby, so that makes Mel uncomfortable and she has to leave. And then she reveals that Mags went demon hunting, so then Jordan's like, that's BS, so he leaves. And then she used a bowl that belonged to Macy, so then Mags had to leave. And I was like, this is kind of a rocky start, but I feel like it also sets the challenge for this episode, and for this season, is how do they get closer? If you had actually just gauged it on the last couple of episodes, you would think that, oh, she's there and it's just going to be hunky dory and everything's going to be 100% great. But that's not necessarily the case. And this was a great little way just for them to just introduce the fact that just because they're happy that the power of 3 is here and they invited her to come stay in the house, that it's not like everything is just, puppies and rainbows at this point. So they are going to have to work at incorporating Kayla into their lives. So I actually really did like that. Then Mel has a nightmare with a child singing the Tallyman song and a hooded figure that looks like Ruby, and then Ruby hacks her with a cleaver. And even after the episode is done, I'm not necessarily understanding what all of that was. I mean, I get it that she's having nightmares and Tallyman is something that's on her mind right now, but also Ruby's on her mind right now. But it seems like it was something they might have done for fun because it's a funny imagery. And maybe it is just a dream. Maybe there's nothing really there. So So there's that. Okay, so then they start reporting on the map, and they're like, so elf kidnapping here, something happened to satyrs, something happened to goblins. And I'm like, yes, I love the fact, again, that they're bringing in all the different creatures and whatnot, and these are real beings in the world. It's not just, witches and demons. That's not it. There's so many other things living in the world, and I like that right now it's more subtle, because like, the day that they have like an elf that like works in their group, that's going to be an interesting thing. But right now it's like there's still the other at this point, but now there's witches, and then there's demons, and then now there are like, you know magical creatures. So now there's 3 camps as opposed to just 2. So that's good. That's good. So this was weird too, is that when they said like this is happening, this is that Maggie then says like, well, a bunch of smaller random attacks, says like, well, that's more damaging to the psyche. And I was like, that's an odd way to phrase it. I was thinking that it's more, if you have all these smaller random attacks, then you can't trace it to a single source. Like, I don't, like, yes, all of the little things, it all breeds an environment of fear and stuff like that. But I think it only does that if you connect any of them. But if they're random and they're all over the world at all given times, who's going to connect them except for like the charmed ones and their super witch computer? Not, not really anybody. So that was a weird way to phrase that. But Mel wants to try and get her powers back. You want to know how she tries to get her powers back? By throwing a tennis ball in the air and saying, "Stop." And I was like, wait, I thought you said you were going to try and figure out a way to get your powers back. That's not, that's not you figuring out a way. That's just you seeing if you already still have it. I don't know. It was very odd. Before I get to that, though, let's go to someone else who's trying to learn something, and that is that Harry is trying to teach Kayla in like, witch training. So she's doodling and not listening because he's going over like, I don't know. I was a terrible student too, so I can't even argue. I would have been like Kayla. I would have been like, this is boring as shit. But it's like I like her energy. It's like we kind of need a Raphael in the group, right? Like we have a Leonardo, that's basically Mel. We have no, I guess Leonardo is a Jordan. Yeah. Then we have a Donatello. No, Jordan's Donatello, definitely. So then we have Jordan, who's Donatello. We have Mel, who is that, and then we have Maggie, Michelangelo, I guess. I don't know. Anyway. But she's like, you weren't at the dinner. He's like, yeah, I don't do that. And she's just like, yeah, but we're not fitting in. We need to try and get everybody on the same page. Then they have like this big argument because, she's an artist. She's a free spirit. Like he's not a good teacher for her. Like he was a great teacher for Macy because Macy was a scientist and studious and loved that sort of stuff. But you can't be a teacher. You have to meet the student where they are. You know what I mean? Like you can't just do that. You can't try to just teach everybody exactly the same. Everybody learns differently. I mean, even just for the fact that there's auditory and visual and tactile, like these are all different ways that people learn. And that's why, like, when you're in class and stuff, like you have some kids who can listen to a lecture and immediately pick up on something. Whereas I can't do that. I need to see it in practice, or actually I'm more of a tactile learner. So I need to do it myself in order for me to really learn it. I'm actually very, very much like Kayla. So that's why I am enjoying her character. Probably that's why. It's because I'm like, hey, she's me if I was a witch and a woman and lived in a bus, So that's, there's that. So so they're clashing, and they end up like doing a virtual reality sword fight where he impales her, and I'm just like, okay, that's a bit much. I wasn't scared that he had actually killed her. Like I was, because the music was making you try to think that. For me, it was more just that it was like, I was like, well, then these must be swords that can go through stuff, but it doesn't actually hurt anybody or something like that. I guess, doing the VR headsets, I guess, was the easy way. They probably just had the VR headsets hooked up to the Super Witch computer, because I'm sure the Super Witch computer has a strong enough OS to run virtual reality goggles. I'm making a joke. If you've been here for any amount of time, I hate that Super Witch computer. So, and obviously I'm noticing that we're having our numbers for this live stream are kind of going up and kind of going down. And that's because Ray had said earlier that we're kind of on at the same time as Kristen, and I did not know. We did not coordinate things, so I just know that this is the time of day that I have to do this because, again, my weekend is stupid busy. I actually have a whole other symposium that I'm going to right after this, so lots to do this weekend. I apologize to Kristen if I'm splitting our numbers. Hopefully everybody will be able to watch both of those. Kristen Maldonado, definitely go check out, Kristen Batista, but her channel is still Kristen Maldonado. I love her over there. She's great. So, so back to Mel. So Mel is trying to get her powers back by throwing tennis balls, and she ends up throwing a tennis ball and breaking like a blue vase out of a box that says Ruby stuff. And she touches it, and she gets like a flashback to the moment where she proposed to Ruby. And I was like, really? Are we giving psychometry to Mel? That's very interesting. I was not anticipating that was going to happen because that's a weird power for her to have. And I would like to point out that by the end of the episode, it was still not necessarily explained as to why she had that. But just, magic is weird. Magic is weird. So she's kind of having these things where she's touching things that belonged to Ruby, or not actually, just walking through the woods, and she's just kind of having these flashbacks where she's there, which would almost be like time travel, but it's more like she's time traveling into herself at the moment and then back. That's like there's a movie that's how you traveled, and I'm trying to remember now. Oh, I can't remember which movie that was. But anyway, yeah, it was weird to try and give her psychometry as well, and when she's trying to get her time powers back. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but with Maggie already kind of having that, it's odd. Especially since I had said maybe they'll give that to Kayla. So it's like, are all three of them going to have this power now? So it would be interesting if it was. I'm going to get to the main thing because it looks like a lot of you guys are talking about it in the chat already, and that's the Leprechaun. I was trying to talk about all the stuff kind of leading up to the Leprechaun before I got to the Leprechaun. So we're looking at Frank texts Jordan and says, "Come help me, I have information." And when they get there, and he lives on Rainbow Road, which I thought was a really nice little cue up for leprechauns. They live at the end of the rainbow, so it's cool that he lives on a rainbow road. But they start arguing, but they're interrupted when they hear him yelling like, "Rawr!" So they get in there, and he's in a box that's going to, spew deadly poison. And here's the thing, and they end up figuring out at the end that like they're being watched. Like, oh, the tally man must be watching us and what we're doing. And I was like, yeah, because I don't know if you noticed, but the 15-minute timer started when you walked in. It wasn't before that. It wasn't while he was screaming. It wasn't when he woke up. You walked in and then the timer started. So that immediately would tell me that timer was for me, so somebody's watching me, somebody's setting me up, and this poor leprechaun guy is just he's just kind of there. And so the timer goes off, and Jordan's trying to cut the wires and stuff, and then it just goes and it blows confetti. But then they give him some of the liquor out of his cabinet, and he's like, "I didn't have any liquor." And it's just like, so then he swallows a bomb and he blows up. And it was interesting because he blows up and there's like green glue and clovers everywhere. And I was like, oh, that's an interesting way to die. What would have happened had he not exploded? Like, does he just literally have clovers like in his blood? Does he bleed green and clovers? That's odd. That's very, very odd. Yeah. So now that so the flashbacks too for Mel is that she's going back to the day that she proposed to Ruby. And I thought it was really cool the way that they did it. Like, you could tell that Ruby kind of filmed those scenes by herself, like, just a camera in her face and she's just talking to the camera, and then they like kind of superimposed a reflection in the window behind her to make it seem like Mel was saying these lines to her. So I don't even think they were in the same room like at all, obviously, but it was an interesting way to do it. And honestly, Ruby was looking very pretty. Like, like they found her angle. Like, bam, she was very, very pretty in that scene. But I thought that it was an interesting way to do it, like, because you could tell, like, watching it, that they were not in the same room, obviously. So at Frank's, there's a green egg and a letter, and they grab the letter. Frank explodes, and then they take the egg with them to their house. Kayla comes home, picks up the egg, and then she is attacked. They find snakeskin kind of left behind in the foyer. So, like, all of that is just ridiculous. But let's finish that off real quick before I jump to the other thing that happened in the tail end of this episode as well, and concerning Roxy, because we're learning a little bit more about Roxy in this episode. But let's deal with the A plot here for a minute. So let's see. So they figure out that this egg, and that was the thing too. So they figure out that this green stone, that there's a Lamia that's after them and all that stuff due to the snakeskin. And then they track it. They find Kayla in like a cocoon of some sort, and then they hear like a from like a cabin in the woods, yet another random cabin in the woods. And that's where the Lamia was there. And it's just weird because there's like, in all my notes, I'm like, yeah, so it's an egg, it's an egg, it's an egg, it's an egg. And then she goes, yeah, I picked up an egg. And they're like, how did you know it was an egg? And it's just like, because it was an egg. Like, like, that was the crazy thing about it. It was like, wait, it wasn't just a weird egg-shaped green stone? You think it was an egg? Yes, it was an egg. And Jordan obviously figures out that the Lamia wasn't attacking them for, any real reason, except that egg is her child. So she was trying to protect her child. The Tallyman must have left the egg there in the Leprechaun's apartment, knowing that they would take it, knowing that the Lamia would attack them. So that's what they basically come to. And then, of course, the Lamia starts ticking. So at some point, she drank the same, thing. So she says, take my egg to my nest. It's the only way that it'll survive. And then they feel bad because they almost killed a mother and a baby. And I'm like, but sure. But again, like, Maggie's been going out and just hunting demons. Like, who knows, like, which demon that she just jumped and just vanquished out of nowhere was some other demon's son or daughter or father or mother. Like, that's the thing, right? Like, babies make everything a little bit clearer in your eye, because you're like, oh, well, I mean, obviously babies, they can't defend themselves at all, and I would never want to kill a demon that would be leaving behind a baby. But like, yeah, how many of those demons do you know didn't have a baby, Maggie? Like, of course, the show's not going to go into that. This was the gray moment that they're now going to be able to kind of point at Maggie and be like, for shame, how dare you try to kill a demon mother? And it's just like, yeah, but I mean, again, she's been going out every night for months. That's like, let's just assume that she said that she did her therapy for several months since Macy died, and then maybe now for months she's been doing this, right? And we also see that she's been going out even if Jordan doesn't go with her. So let's just assume that she goes out, 5 nights a week, right? So 5 nights a week, and she did her therapy in the first half, and let's say the second half of the 6 months has been all of this demon hunting. So that's 5 times, let me see, it's 3 months. Let's just rounding, 4 months, 4 weeks in a month. So 4 times 3, that's 12. 12 times 5, that's 70. So she probably vanquished at least 70 demons in the last 3 months. And sometimes in those, that's just if she only vanquished one every time she went out. She might have done multiples, like even the first time that we saw her and Jordan going out and doing it. They had done 3 in that one, night outing. So, that's 3 in that one. So I'm saying like a minimum of like 70. And you're going to tell me you don't think any of those demons had eggs or, like sons or daughters or babies or, hatchlings? Like, come on now. They're like, that's what I'm saying. It's like, we need to be able to, our heroes, we need to try and make them heroes. It's hard to really root for somebody who is going out. And this isn't the writer's faults. I mean, this was an issue kind of I've had for a while now, since season 2. But yeah, it's like I want the charmed ones to be the heroes that they should be. But I mean, right now we're kind of exploring the bad things that are kind of going on and their regrets and whatnot. So hopefully in the next episode, Maggie will start to come to terms with that and be able to kind of even acknowledge the fact that, oh, well, I might have, murdered / vanquished, other mothers and sons and like, demons have family too. I don't know. It's weird. I'm going to stop going on about that. It's just problematic for our hero to be this kind of person. So there's all of that. So then we're going to debrief at the end of the episode, and they say they got the egg back to the nest. Yay. The tallyman was watching them. And yeah, so the tallyman walks in and he holds up his hand, and the spider, comes down. And I was like, that guy just looks like a dude. Like, that's just some dude. Like, I was expecting somebody scarier looking, but I mean, I get it too. Like, that might just be his secret, human form that doesn't really look like anything because it's just how it is or whatever. But like, yeah, like he was just some dude with but yes, but confirmed. This is what I said, that the spiders were being used as like kind of like cameras. And yeah, he gets this one, and we were able to see everything that the spider recorded, I guess, in its eyes. So I thought that was really cool. But yeah, he just looked like a dude. So Harry and Kayla, they're kind of like apologizing to each other because, he was a bad teacher and she was a bad student. And I'm like, no, only the teacher needs to apologize in this case. She didn't do anything wrong in my view. So I'm glad that they both apologized to each other. I'm sure it made both of them feel better, but like literally all of that was Harry's fault. That's just mine. And then he leaves to go and do the stuff with Roxy. And we're going to talk about the stuff with Roxy here in a minute. Actually, no, I'll talk about it now. So the stuff with Roxy, she's like, hey, yeah, I am what's called circadian. And I was like, a circadian? And she goes, yeah, I go under and I spend a year above ground and then I sleep for 7 years, and I'm in the tail half of this year. And I'm like, oh, so I thought it was an interesting way to kind of play with the cicadas that just came through in 2021, who like they hibernate for like 14 years and they just come out every I thought it was kind of an interesting way to do it. It also tells us that she is an immortal, that she has loved and lost before, so she really feels a kinship to Harry. So I thought that was interesting, but she offers him a mushroom from the Forbidden Gnome Forest. And he's like, what is that going to do? And she's like, it's going to tell you who you were always supposed to be. And I thought that was really cool. So not as a white lighter, not as Macy's, boyfriend, or just like not as a dark lighter, white lighter, not anything the elders would have done, but for you. And I was like, okay, all right. So he takes it, everything goes blurry, and then he disappears. So I guess we'll have to figure out what happens to him next time. That's pretty much his storyline. It was over before it kind of began. It was very like lax, but I get the fact though that he's like, I don't feel like being just a white lighter anymore. I don't feel like this is my place anymore. I don't know if this is possibly trying to figure out a way to get the actor who plays Harry. I don't know if he's deciding to maybe leave the show or whatever. Like, I guess we'll see what happens. But Roxy is the one who runs the Blue Camellia Ray. So I just saw that you asked that. So there's that. So there's all that's that. So let's see, what do we have here? Oh, so this was another little interesting thing, is that Kayla goes to the restroom, and I really loved this tongue-in-cheek nature of, if you go back to the scene and you look at the bathroom sign, because it's got like a centaur and a sprite and a pixie and a human. It's got all like the different creatures and stuff on the bathroom door, which I thought was really interesting. Like it was just a really kind of tongue-in-cheek kind of like little, oh, that was cool. And then Jordan is trying to decipher the letter, and Maggie, he says, I'm done enabling you. And I was just like, of course, because that's Jordan. Jordan's like, yeah, no, I'm done. I've tried to do good by you, so but I'm out. And I'm like, yeah, that's Jordan, because he's a good guy. He's just like, yeah, I tried, but I'm done. So she goes out by herself, and she gets catcalled, and she just beats the crap out of this guy who catcalls her. So I saw that the previews for the next episode had started, but I stopped them. But apparently we're going to be dealing more with the fact that she's attacking random people in the street and all that stuff in the next episode. But honestly, I thought that was a great ending. And overall, I think that this episode was again really good, and I think that it's a good kind of establishing episode where it's kind of, going forward. Superman fan, you say, I kind of feel bad for the dude. I don't. He don't catcall people, especially if they call you out on it. Don't be further an asshole. So like that, I don't feel bad for him. Like definitely he shouldn't have gotten beaten up. So like she was in the wrong there, but also no, what? Don't do that. That's terrible. And if you get called out on it, don't double down. It was bad. All right, so I'm going to hit some of these comments, and let's see where we're at here. David Chambers, hello, sir. Okay, so let's see here. So let's talk Harry and his treatment of Kayla, which was worse than when Cole initially treated Paige. I thought it was just bad overall. No one should be treated like that. And again, it's his being a teacher. He was right to step away because he was not being a very cool teacher, is basically all I'm saying. I'm loving the new showrunners in the magical world, leaps and bounds better than the last 2 seasons on many levels. I mean, I would agree with that. I would kind of say I actually like it more than even the first season, though. So far, this is my favorite season. But I mean, we'll see if it continues. But so far, I mean, I'm just looking at these 3 episodes. I've really enjoyed these 3 episodes. Harry was tripping over that bowl. You don't do that, especially when the person has no clue. I get it. Sentimental items. Yeah, and that's kind of how I felt about all of it. Like, at the family dinner, I feel like the only one who I think justifiably left the table was Jordan, because he was just like, oh, like, now you're lying to me. Oh, I need to go. But like bringing up a thing with Ruby, it was like, well, I mean, you could just say it was my ex and then move on, but still eat the girl's food. It's like, and then, oh, and then this was a bowl that belonged to somebody. It's like, what? It was a bowl? Like, if the bowl had a picture of Macy's face on it, maybe. But like, unless, like, it's different. There's a difference with sentimentality and items and stuff, right? If it's like, oh, that's a bowl that we bought with Macy. But like, if it was like, oh, that was a bowl that we served our first meal when we were blah, blah, like, if there has to be more than just that was a bowl that we bought with Macy. It was odd. It was an odd choice, but not a bad choice. I mean, everybody has their levels of sentimentality. I don't have that, apparently. I kind of love the Leprechaun personality. He was kind of cute. By cutie. It's interesting to see that the magical creatures have initial personalities compared to witches and demons. Well, I mean, I feel like everybody should have personalities and stuff, and that might be inspired and informed by their species, but I like the fact that he was just kind of he was also kind of a curmudgeon kind of character, but also he was like, I've never been places, I never did, like, he started kind of going over his bucket list, and I thought that was interesting. I did like Frank. Too bad Frank doesn't get to stick around. Maybe we'll get Frank's brother, Greg or something. We'll see. We'll see. Let's see. I'm glad that Jordan found his cojones with Maggie, like he did with Macy, to get her respect. Maggie has been making him a purse holder for 2 seasons. I'm glad he is setting boundaries. I wouldn't agree with that. He's always had boundaries, and like even like when they first met and he could tell that there was something there, he was like, yeah, but guess what, I have a girlfriend, so no. So I mean, like, he's always been good by her, and in this case he's trying to meet her where she's at, which was something that was told to him in, I believe, the first episode. So he was trying, but he's decided that now it's too much, and he's done that on several occasions, even at the end of last season, where he's like, look, Maggie, cards on the table. Is this a thing or isn't this a thing? Like, let's just get it out in the open, and just like, it's either going to be a thing or not, and let's just decide right now. Because he's always been that kind of character, which is again why I like him. So, let's see. Ray, pixies always seem like they on drugs. Yeah, I mean, they're just hyper, but that's that pixie dust right there. I thought Harry actually stabbed her and was going to heal her after. Oh God, that would be terrible if he had actually stabbed her. No, I didn't think it was going to be VR goggles, but I definitely knew that it was going to be something like, yeah, again, like maybe swords that they clang with each other, but you can't actually hit anybody with them. Because they would be literally practice swords. Maybe, we'll see. I feel like it's a way to show that what Mel is going through, show what Mel is going through, and not a new flashback power. If it is a new power, it feels similar to Maggie. Well, and I thought that's what I thought too. I thought maybe she's having a flashback, but when we came back, her eyes were glowing and stuff. So it's definitely not like, it wasn't just a flashback, because later on in the episode, she did just have a memory and we didn't see the eyes glowing and stuff like that, because it was just a memory. It wasn't her, like she said, I went back and it was as if I was there and I could smell her perfume, and it was like she was there. So it is very similar to Maggie's though, which is kind of what I was saying as well. Abby, pixies get demonic creepy wings, shattering their inner sweetness. Yeah, it's kind of sad, really. Let's see. I'm kind of surprised that Ruby showed up in the episode. I mean, I'm not. I mean, I was hoping that they were going to address it at some point, so I'm glad that they did, and I like the way that they did it. I did not feel like there was any chemistry between the two of them. And now, even within the show, we know why. It's because even within their own relationship, Ruby's like, it was kind of always you and saving the world, and it was never about us. And there you go. And I'm like, yeah, it kind of was. So I can't even fault you on that. But yeah, it kind of just was. So I certainly wasn't going into this episode expecting, hey, you know what would be good this morning to cry. What part made you cry? I didn't cry at all. Maggie has some major issues. I agree. It honestly looked like an egg. Exactly. It's just like, why would you think that it's an egg? I don't know, because it's egg shaped. Like, I immediately thought it was an egg too. I was wondering, like, ooh, what's this weird egg? And yes, in history there have been stones shaped like eggs. That's true. But if I'm in a magical world and I see a scaly looking egg, my first thought would be egg, not stone that's shaped like an egg. It's an odd choice, but hey, we also watch lots of TV shows like this, so we're kind of looking for stuff. Maybe they're just not looking for it. Maybe that's what it is. Let's see. Yeah, Maggie's about wiped out half the demon population. Exactly. Mel isn't the best girlfriend. She normally takes all the air in the room and is superimposing on her partners. Jada was the only one where she was balanced and they were partners. Nico, Kat, and Ruby were doormats. Kat was nothing. Like, honestly, Kat left before they were even able to do anything. Nico, not so much. No, I liked her relationship with Nico, but it still was very much about Mel, even with Nico. So, yes, I kind of agree with you. Also, kind of not, because that's how I work. um, I wonder if she goes after demons who are doing evil things or just anyone she can. Well, the question is, was the guy who harassed her on the street doing an evil thing or just a bad thing? So then that should answer your question. My thought, based on all of the context clues, is that she's literally looking for any demon that is doing anything that could be construed as kind of wrong, and then beating the crap out of them and vanquishing them. So that's my thought. We don't really know because they didn't show us all of them, but my guess is, yeah, that's probably pretty truthful there. Yeah, so even Ray saying it's any demon that they can get at this point. That's the point Jordan was making. Jordan wants to protect and go for the active doing bad, and Maggie is just about demon slaying. Exactly. And it's not as if you're talking about, like, if you talk about Buffy and how Buffy would patrol to slay any vampires that she would see. The interesting thing about vampires is, unless they have a soul, they are going to go and kill people. Like, there were no vampires that didn't kill people. Like, so in that case, like, yes, you kind of definitely want to get them if they're doing it or if they're in the process, but if your whole job is to do that, then you want to get them before they're even able to do it. If they have a soul, then it's a little bit different. You don't need to just go and just clobber them, but it's a whole thing. I guess we're assuming everything kind of has a soul at this point. Didn't ever consider Maggie going down a dark and evil path until Jordan brought it up. And at first, I dismissed what he said because she's grieving, but how the episode ended, I'm like, maybe he's right. I said this from the first episode. I was like, yeah, if they're going out every night and just vanquishing any demon that they find, and that's a lot of demons. Like I said, that's at least 70, and that's only if it's one a night. If it's more than one a night, it could be, triple that, quadruple that. What if she found a nest at some point and just demolished everybody? It could be really terrible. Maggie the Demon Slayer, exactly. I like that. Maybe she'll take on that moniker. I thought Abigail already opened their eyes to the fact that demons can have families too. You'd think that she did, but no, apparently not. Apparently, like, we're even getting away from, like, there being, like, the ruler of the demon world. They haven't mentioned the demon overlord or anything like that. So, with Abigail gone, they've reduced demons down to just the bad things that you hunt in the night, and not necessarily building upon what has already been established, which, it's a choice of the new writers. I'm not necessarily complaining about it, because, again, the way that it had been presented in the past introduced a lot of gray area that then opens itself up to particular kind of nitpicking, and detail-oriented people like us will be like, well, but this doesn't make any sense because this would say this and this changes this about the world and all that stuff. And they're kind of just wanting to get back to, like, hey, we're witches and we're the good people and the demons are the bad things, and, like, let's keep them in the background. We don't necessarily need to see all the machinations of all of that stuff. Like for instance, and this is a weird thing. I was watching one of the newer Pokemon movies with my youngest son, and it was like the one in the jungle, where you find out that, like, this one type of Pokemon called a Zarude, they are intelligent enough, they have laws and traditions, and they're, like, raising up human children and, like, all of this stuff, and it's, like, ridiculous because they have, like, a language, and I'm like, they're human level. Like, why are they just a Pokemon now? What, Bubby? I'm doing a live stream for my friends here, and you are walking in my office. Do you need something?
Why are you talking about me?
Because you're in my office and I told you I was doing a live stream. So you can go now. Thank you. So why am I talking about him? I love him so much. Anyway, so let's see here. So Ray is at the end of the day, they are still demons. I'm sorry. This is a disposition to evil and eating people. It's going to be a very small fraction that are Parker and Abby's who are half human. Well, and that's the thing that they never necessarily defined, because they've also, you know, again, they had like the power of 3 and they used it to destroy a demon when the demons were just like hanging out. Like they weren't doing anything. So I don't necessarily like the idea of vanquishing slash killing slash murdering somebody because they're quote unquote predisposed to do something. That's hard. That's hard for me to justify in almost any context. So the writing this season has been so good. I agree. Is he really a white lighter since they didn't split him in two? Yes. And because the whole idea of the splitting them in two to make the white lighter dark lighter thing, that was a Celeste idea, and that was in order to basically make slaves. They were trying to make these slaves to the council, to the elders, that would only be good. And then they took all their bad stuff and they bottled it up and put it away so that they could never turn on them. You know, that was kind of the idea behind it. And she saw the error of her ways, so she did the same ritual, tweaked it so that they didn't have to remove the dark side of the person. So he is a white lighter. He's just the new type of white lighter who is fully a person as well and not half a person. So let's see what we got here. All right, I'm skipping ahead just a little bit. That singer in the club reminds me how Drake was singing in P3, the demon guy who was good but died, whom was also Phoebe's love interest in season 7. Oh, wait, wasn't that Cupid? He could be Cupid. I thought he was kind of handsome for and she's like, I'm not seeing nothing, but I thought he was kind of handsome. Let's see. Maggie needs anger management stat. Well, she needs a lot more than anger management, I think. Maggie needs to calm down. Ooh, don't say the CD word to her. Jordan saying that he's not even a psych major was one of those favorite lines from the episode. Exactly. Most psych majors, they go into psychology because they realize how messed up they are. So he's like, yeah, I'm not even a psych major and I can tell you what's wrong with you. So I thought that was really good. Ruby filling Melon on how lonely she felt in their relationship was the highlight. I'd agree with that. I don't think it was my highlight, but I think it was definitely something that needed to be addressed. Otherwise it would have been hard to move forward not knowing what happened with their relationship. But now knowing what happened there with their relationship, it makes perfect sense. And I'm 100% happy that she decided to break things off with Mel, so that she could go and have a better life, and she doesn't have to be surrounded by magic, the thing that she never wanted in the first place. So I'm definitely okay with that. Of course, that does seem to alter the future some, but that future is nebulous and they change the future. So now that thing that would have happened doesn't happen now. It's a whole weird thing. Time travel is weird. So we are also seeing the downside to Kayla's power already. Kayla's power of manifestation is so OP that you have to either let it be OP or put a limiter on it for more storytelling. She is a reality warper. Not necessarily. She didn't even use her power this episode, so I don't know. I don't see why we're seeing that now. But at Aloy, how long did that girlfriend last? We don't know her. Maggie is a Vera, just like Mel and Marisol, and how they treat the relationship with boundaries. Yeah, I mean, that's true. So let's see here. That's so Mel's. So that's so Mel. It's the past that I don't know why I can't read. That I can see. That's so Mel. It's so mysterious. Okay. I'm glad Ruby dropped all those truth bombs. Exactly. Yes, that the fandom has been screaming about 100%. My question is, what's happening with the demon world now that Abby left her role in the Overlord, especially with Maggie running through them? Honestly, I think they're gonna have to have some sort of reckoning with that, because it, like, it's kind of like with Batman, right? If Batman starts terrorizing the crime underworld, all of the criminals are going to say, okay, so how do we get rid of Batman? I think eventually there's going to be okay, so how do we get rid of this charmed one? I don't even think they're going to target all the charmed ones. I think they're going to say, how do we get rid of Maggie? Let's break up the power of three again. Um, So I wonder, do other witches slay demons too? Well, I think in the lore, it's always been that the charmed ones are more powerful than other witches. So I guess it depends on the power level of the witch. You'd have to think that there's at least some witches out there who are slaying demons because they also have chips on their shoulders, or they were told that it's the right thing to do, or whatever. It's hard to say. Uh, I like. You kind of need to compartmentalize these stories, because the moment that you're like, well, if Maggie's doing this, how many other possible witches in the world could be doing this? That means how many demons are being murdered, because but then it's like we don't really know the impact of that unless we then know how many demons there are in comparison to witches, and then it creates more questions than it answers. You know what I mean? Okay. So, also, I wonder, demons do fall in love with humans, it seems, since we know there are half demons. So, if demons are capable of love, I don't think all are naturally evil. Well, and that's the thing. Evil is a societal construct as well. Evil is defined by who you're asking. And again, I made a whole video about, if you follow different philosophical journeys through life. If you're utilitarian, then wasting food could be construed as evil, because you are going against what our society says is good. So it's that sort of thing. So, like, if you live in a hedonistic society, then murdering people is a great thing. Like, if you think back, I haven't done so much research, so I'm going to preface it with that, so I'm not trying to stereotype anything, but a lot of the stories that I've heard about Aztec sacrifice rituals, and that sacrificial culture that was there with their religious figures and whatnot. So if you told them, but no, what? No, you can't sacrifice anybody. They'd be like, of course you're going to sacrifice somebody. What are you, stupid? Like, like, that's evil to think that we're not going to sacrifice somebody. You know what I mean? So it really does depend on the culture itself. And that's a very extreme example, which I could also be completely wrong uh in my explanation of it. But I'm just saying, like, it is all based on what society you're in. So that's all I'll say there. Yes, and yes, there was a video that I did. It's called something like The Ethics of Vanquishing, or something to that effect. You definitely go check it out. So dang it, you missed my joke. I never watched any That's So as Raven, so maybe that's why I missed the joke. So is the switchboard still lighting up when witches are in danger so far? The only one that they've helped is Kayla, or are we sticking to magical creatures? I think it's still doing it for any witches, but witches aren't the ones that are being attacked right now. Supernatural creatures are the ones being attacked right now. So they're also the weird thing with the witch computer is, if you can just look up, okay, are there any witches in danger? It would almost turn them into, like, they would have to be answering every call if they were to use it in that way. Right now, they can kind of just use it in the moment, but, like, there's always going to be witches in danger, especially if there's some of them out there vanquishing demons for no reason. So you almost need to treat it like it's an afterthought. Otherwise, all day, every day would just be vanquishing demons and going and saving witches. Sometimes sometimes it's okay to know that other witches are in danger and not go help them. Because if they're in danger, maybe they're able to help themselves. Like, they only need to really intercede where they need to. But then the whole witch computer thing is kind of dumb anyway. You know, as a writer, I wouldn't want to give up the command center and the witch computer because it's such an easy like narrative tool to be able to convey information to the characters. So I understand why the writers right now are holding on to it and keeping it as part of the thing. But honestly, I think the moment that they can get rid of the witch computer, the better. It'll be way better. So we are past 2. I do have actually a thing that's coming up pretty soon here, so I do need to cut that down. Cut our thing short here. I think last time we were here for almost an hour and a half. I'm cutting it at 50. But next weekend I will be back on Saturday, not on Sunday, and we'll be able to spend the normal amount of time that we would be doing here, and I won't intercept Kristen's live stream as well. So there's too many things that happened on this Sunday that made this a different type of experience, but hopefully you still had fun. Thank you to everybody who came and hung out with me. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe and all that junk. And, otherwise, I've been your host, Aloy. This has been the Turnout. Thanks for showing up. And I will see you guys next weekend to talk more Charmed. And in the meantime, obviously, I will have other videos coming. So see ya. Bye.